In Cuba, Foreign Minister Bruno Rodriguez denounced the European Union's lack of transparency and manipulative behavior in the preparations of the third European Union-CELAC summit. The spokesperson for the International Committee of the Red Cross, Fatima Satord, condemned Washington's decision to supply the culture bombs to Ukraine. Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov met with representatives from the Gulf Cooperation Council and reiterated that the cooperation between Russia and the Black countries does not seek to hurt anyone. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Ana Marrero from the teleSUR headquarters in Caracas, Venezuela. We'll begin with the news. Stay with us. The Minister of Foreign Affairs of Cuba, Bruno Rodriguez, denounced on Monday the lack of transparency and the manipulative conduct of the European Union in the preparation of the third CELAC European Union Summit to be held on July the 17th and 18th in Brussels.
The truth is that over and above statements and declarations, bi-regional relations have hardly advanced, and during the most recent period, they have been regressed. The summit can be an opportunity to start changing that situation, but there are reasons for concern. The lack of transparency and the manipulative behavior of the European Union during the preparation of the summit seriously jeopardize the successful outcome of the meeting. There has been an attempt to impose restrictive and divisive formats that prevent straightforward and transparent discussions, as well as an intention to conceal the content of the debates from the media and public opinion.
The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Cuba also explained that the European part decides on its own who will represent the Latin American and Caribbean region in those events.
Several forums are being organized in parallel with the summit. The European side has even decided on its own who will be the representatives of our regions in those events. Such a conduct, besides being disrespectful, creates the conditions so that these forums could be turned into platforms to attack and single out CELAC member countries. The behavior of the European Union jeopardizes the possibility to achieve final agreements.
In Venezuela, a group of members of the Communist Party of Venezuela, PCV, request the Supreme Court of Justice to appoint a special bureau to restructure the political organization. The spokesman of the faction of the Communist Party, Henry Parra, explained that they will seek justice regarding the way in which the leadership of the party directed. Riparra indicated that they introduced an appeal to the Constitutional Chamber because they considered that the current leadership of the PCV is illegitimate and illegal for being elected in a Congress when more than 80% of the members of the organization did not participate.
Because there are many of us who have been excluded, and in the face of that, we have no choice to turn to the Supreme Justice Court for a constitutional remedy. This kidnapped 27 years old has one of the newest Juljavu. Of the rest are people who have a lifetime in the party. The important thing is that they have a life in the party, that they have it for the sake of the party project that we represent. We are an anti-imperialist political project, and today the party policy is coincident with the oppressive policy they have against our people. It is almost accepting that the blockage and wants to blame the government for everything that is happening in this country, and unaware that is the product of an international policy, which is the product of an international policy directed for the United States of America that has starved part of our people.
Simultaneously, the leadership of a sector of the Venezuelan opposition fell from the Supreme Court of Justice a constitutional appeal for alleged irregularities in the primary process carried out by the political sector.
And it ended up developing as a totally sectarian closed process, as if they were the internal elections of the political organization. We in the Supreme Court of Justice even introduced a constitutional injunction against the primary process and against the National Commission of Primaries as a result of a series of irregularities. They went over the law. They remain outside the Constitution. They are going over the heads of the political factors, political leaders, and presidential aspirants, only to please a very small group.
In Canada, the Forest Fire Prevention Agency of Quebec announced for the first time since the 8th of May that there are no out-of-control wildfires in the province. Authorities said that there are still 57 blazes in the southern part of the province, including 38 that are under control, while another 19 are considered contained. The agency considers a fire contained when it is no longer growing but could regain strength. India's government reported 29 people dead as a result of floods caused by the heavy rains affecting the country. Authorities report that more than 300 are stranded in the northern province of the country and in the capital city, and said they are waiting for the rains to stop before sending a rescue helicopter. The Meteorological Service informed that the rains will continue for the next few days in several areas of the north. Let's take a short break, but remember you can now follow us on our TikTok account as teleSUR English. There you will be able to visit, to find our news of different formats, news updates, and more. Stay tuned for more news. Welcome back to From the South. The spokesperson for the international community of the Red Cross, Fatima Sator, condemned Washington's decision to supply cluster bombs to Ukraine. Sator considered the munition as a serious danger for the civilian population, especially children. In a comment to the agency, Rihanna Bosti, Sator stated that cluster munitions have serious humanitarian consequences for the communities for many years. She added that children can mistake them for toys and get hurt. Cluster munitions used for the first time during World War II can be used in rockets, bombs, missiles, and artillery shells. On Monday, during a meeting with representatives from the Cooperation Council for the Arab States of the Gulf, also known as the Gulf Cooperation Council (GCC), Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov stated that cooperation between Russia and member countries of the bloc does not seek to hurt anyone. Lavrov stressed that neither Russia nor the Gulf countries had ever tried to interfere with each other's relations with third countries, which distinguishes them from a range of other relations.
We welcome steps made on the normalization of Arab-Iranian relations. Saudi Arabia, as you know, renewed diplomatic relations with the Islamic Republic of Iran not long ago. On the whole, this creates a more positive atmosphere in this region. We share our partners' attitude in their search for a compromise, as well as their readiness to consider the interests of one another and all parties involved.
In addition, the Russian Prime Minister stated the importance of paying attention to the conflicts in Sudan and Palestine, which have caused victims, destructions, and suffering to their inhabitants.
We pay significant attention to the situation in Sudan. We are deeply concerned about the continuation of combat between subdivisions of the regular army and of the Rapid Support Forces, bringing with it victims and destruction. We, along with our Arab partners, spoke in favor of preventing the situation from deteriorating and for swift, urgent steps to cease the fighting. We are united in considering the Palestinian question a central problem for the Middle East, and that the search for a two-state principle on an internationally recognized basis should not lead to suffering in the name of any geopolitical games.
French police are involved in an extensive air and ground search for a 2-year-old boy who went missing from a town in the south of the country over the weekend. The boy, Emil, was playing in the garden of his grandparents' house in a village outside Laverne in the Alpes of Haut province between Grimbloud and Nice when he disappeared on Saturday afternoon, according to the mayor of Laverne, François Balic. The family was going on an excursion, and when they were preparing to put him in the car, they realized that he was no longer there. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan agreed on Monday to submit to his parliament for approval Sweden's application to join NATO. The announcement was made by the Alliance Secretary General Jens Stoltenberg after talks with President Erdogan and Sweden's Prime Minister Ulf Kristersson in Vilnius, the Lithuanian capital. Sweden's bid must still be approved by the Turkish parliament, but Erdogan has agreed to push for its ratification. Turkey has been holding up Sweden's application to join the Atlantic Treaty Alliance, accusing Stockholm of harboring Turkish activists, which Ankara regards as terrorists.
I'm glad to announce that as a result, President Erdogan has agreed to forward the accession protocol for Sweden to the Grand National Assembly as soon as possible, and work closely with the Assembly to ensure ratification. This is an historic day because we have a clear commitment by Turkey to submit the ratification documents to the Grand National Assembly and to work closely with the Assembly to ensure ratification. What Sweden agreed today as an EU member was to support actively the efforts to reinvigorate Turkey's EU accession process, and also to help to modernize the EU-Turkey custom unions and visa liberalization.
Let's take our last break, but before we invite you to visit our YouTube channel at teleSUR English. There you will be able to watch our interviews, top stories, special broadcasts, and more. Hit the subscribe button and activate the notification bell to stay up to date on the world's most recent events. For a financial break, don't go away. Welcome back. Israel's parliament started debate on a bill that will limit core powers in a new political offensive that puts on with a judicial overhaul that has failed the nation. The changes to the judicial system proposed by the hard-right government of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu have sparked one of the country's biggest ever protest movements since their announcement in January. Tens of thousands of demonstrators have taken to the streets in weekly rallies demanding a halt to the planned overhaul of the judiciary. Netanyahu ordered a pass in March to allow for talks of the proposal, following stiff opposition and growing international criticism, including from U.S. President Joe Biden. Sudan's peace talks in Ethiopia go ahead with the international community and the Sudanese civil society despite the refusal to participate by the conflict-torn country's government. The East African regional blog IGAD had invited warning faction in Sudan to a meeting in Ethiopia's capital on Monday. However, neither of them attended the talks personally, although the Rapid Support Forces sent a representative to the meeting, which is led by Kenya, South Sudan, and Djibouti and Ethiopia.
We know that the political leaders present in this meeting are by no means representative of the groups, but we believe that an open process, an inclusive process, will bring on board all political actors, civilian groups, civil society groups, to be part of this great effort.
The parties to the violent conflict will have to silence the guns and immediately put in place an unconditional and indefinite ceasefire.
Sudan is probably the most difficult place in the world at the moment for the delivery of humanitarian assistance. And the problem that arises is because of the lack of good access and safe passage and safe corridors.
On Monday, the first high-level conference of the Forum on Global Actions for Shared Development opened in Beijing, featuring 4 panels that boost multi-stakeholder partnership and engagement in the United Nations 2030 Agenda for Sustainable Development. High-ranking officials from 27 countries, diplomats based in China, representatives from over 20 UN agencies and other international and non-governmental organizations attended the conference. The Global Development Initiative proposed by President Xi Jinping in 2021 is closely aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals of reflecting China's commitment to promoting global development. And the 4th edition of the International Gas, Oil and Energy Fair concluded on Monday at the Damascus Exhibition Center, an event that is a part of the Syrian state management aimed at recovering the sector after long years of wars. Our correspondent Hisham News with the details.
The fair, entitled SIR Petrol 2023, was attended by 55 local and international companies specialized in the oil industry, exploration operations, drilling, extraction, refining and marketing of oil and natural gas, as well as renewable energy companies, services, transportation, equipment, repair and maintenance, studies, consulting, occupational safety, geology and mineral wealth.
At this fair, we have presented the plan prepared by the Syrian Ministry of Oil and Mineral Resources for investment in the oil, gas, and energy sectors, and we assure you that this plan opens the doors to all friends, brothers, and allies to invest in these fields and contribute to the reactivation, rehabilitation, and reconstruction of oil and gas facilities destroyed or sabotaged by terrorist groups.
The large participation of foreign companies in this fair, including Iranian companies, indicates the strong interest of Syrian-friendly countries in tackling the blockade and helping to revive and develop Syria's oil industry.
Companies from Iran, China, United Arab Emirates, Great Britain, Belarus, Algeria, Yemen, Iraq, and Lebanon marked a notable presence in this edition of the fair, a platform where officials, specialists, and experts in the oil industry sector at the local, regional, and international levels, in addition to exchanging experiences, ideas, and information on modern technology in the field of oil, agreed to activate the contracts signed with a view to improving the prospects for the energy sector in Syria.
We urge the participants in the fair to join efforts and help us to overcome the Western coercive measures that limit our working capacities, and we hope that the private sector, together with the Ministry of Petroleum, can activate the agreements signed with friendly countries to rehabilitate this sector of vital importance for the national economy.
This oil and gas fair is especially important in the current circumstances that the country is going through, because it constitutes a platform for the exchange of experiences with foreign companies and learning about the latest technologies in the oil and gas industry, besides drawing businessmen and foreign capital to invest in this important sector.
Before 2011, Syria produced more than 380,000 barrels of crude oil per day, a figure that is currently reduced to only 80,000, 66,000 of which are plundered by the invading U.S. troops. This fair, as well as other similar ones, are part of a plan launched by the Syrian authorities with the aim of activating the oil sector and overcoming the million-dollar losses it suffered due to the war, the blockade, the occupation, and the looting by the United States and its related militias.
Hisham News, teleSUR, Damascus, Syria.
We have come to the end of this news brief, but you can find this and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also see us on our socials. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and on Instagram as well. For teleSUR English, and from the South, I'm Ana Marrero. Thank you for watching.